For the last year or so, tech layoffs have been in the news. Large, money-making organisations firing the very developers who make them that money. Is it fair? And what can we, as developers, do about it? Hello, I'm Trisha G. Welcome to the Continuous Delivery channel, where we have opinions on technology. If you want to hear more opinions, please subscribe. And if you like this particular opinion, please hit like. Layoffs do happen. We have seen this before. Back in 2000, around the turn of the century, there was the dot-com crash. I was graduating from university at the time, and trying to find a job in tech was challenging. Then around about 2007, 2008, the credit crunch happened. Just as I was moving back from New York to London, trying to get a job in a bank or fintech doing development. People who've been in the industry long enough will tell you this is cyclical. There's boom and bust. Sometimes you have layoffs and sometimes times are good for developers. However, this round of layoffs is a little bit different. In this case, it's large, profitable technology firms who are laying off the staff who make those profits. This leads me to have opinions on the topic. Some of the leaders and founders of these organisations are some of the richest men in the world. You would think they would have a little bit of pocket change lying around to retain their developers and pay them fair salaries. These developers are the people who helped them to make money in the first place. We've heard of developers being fired from a particular job and then 2 months later being hired back on a smaller salary. I don't think this is cost cutting. I don't think I'm allowed to swear on this channel. This is an ineffective cost-cutting exercise. I've also seen organisations, tech organisations who are not making layoffs, who hit all their financial targets, meeting all their objectives, and yet their stock price plummets. My theory is because they're not making layoffs. What does this tell me? This suggests to me that the layoffs are not about cost-cutting. They are about telling their investors and their shareholders, yes, we're willing to do whatever it takes to be profitable, even if that means firing some of our very best people. It's also a way to tell us, the developers, you're not really that important. You are replaceable. Have there been times when we've been overpaid and underutilised? It's possible. But I don't think that firing all of us is the right way to teach us a lesson. I think perhaps having a conversation about value and value add might be a good place to start. However strongly I feel about these layoffs, I can't do anything about them, sadly. And unless you are a leader of one of these very large organisations, you probably can't either. So I want to spend the rest of this video telling you what maybe you can do in order to control your career a little more. Before I do that, I want to take a second to thank our sponsors, Equal Experts, Transfic, and Semaphore. These are companies that produce services and products that are well aligned with what we talk about in the Continuous Delivery channel. Please take a look and click on the links in the description below. So what have we learnt from these layoffs? Well, I have learnt that these companies are not here for you at all. These companies are here for them. And they will drop you, like modern programming languages drop the semicolon, when it suits them. Can you protect yourself from being laid off if you work for one of these companies or you think your job is at risk? I mean, they will tell you, as long as you meet the objectives, as long as you work hard, put in the hours, deliver business value, as long as you play the game, then you're a little bit safer than you would have been. But I think evidence shows us from 2023 and 2024 that a little bit safer doesn't mean anything whatsoever. And if a company decides to axe an entire department or an entire organisation, no matter how good your code is, you're not going to be safe from that. These layoffs are ultimately not about you at all. It's not about your ability to write good code. It's not about the amount of hours that you put in. It's about the company's ability to showcase that they're willing to do whatever it takes to make more money. These companies never cared about you. They were never going to support your career growth. The only person who can really support you throughout your career development is you. You're the only person who's going to be there for the whole time throughout your career. You're the only person who hopefully has an inkling on what is good for you, where do you want to go, what are the right directions for you to take. What steps can you take? Well, the first most important step in my opinion, is to make sure that your resume or CV is up to date. Obviously, if your job goes away, you can now give that resume to someone else to perhaps apply for a new job. However, it's also a useful exercise in its own right. It's always a good idea to take a look at what you've done over the last 12 months or 2 years or 10 years, however long it is since you last refreshed your resume, and see, what have I learnt since then? What new skills and abilities do I have? What new things do I get to put onto my CV to showcase to people what I'm good at? You may find during this exercise that not only do you have a CV to give to someone if you happen to need to apply for a new job, you might find that the job that you're in is actually not meeting your own needs. And you can use that resume to apply to somewhere which does meet your needs. Another step you can take, which I think is really important, is to be an active part of the technical community. If you're subscribed to this channel, you're already well on the way to being part of the technical community. You are learning and growing and actively involving yourself in what's out there. I'm a big fan of user groups. For me in particular, Java user groups. These are places where I have really helped accelerate my career. I've met a lot of great people, I've had a lot of great advice, and it has provided me a safe environment to try new things to level up. If you have a local user group in your city, that local user group allows you to meet people who are working on the same sorts of things as you in different organisations in your city. And you get to hear, what are these people working on? What is it like to work there? Are they hiring? It's a good way to get out there and see what else is there. Another important thing to consider is your portfolio. Your CV or resume should be, 2 pages long? This is not a great way to represent someone, whether you've got 6 months experience or 20 years experience. A 2-page resume doesn't really give a good idea of who you are. A portfolio is something like GitHub profiles or Stack Overflow profiles, or being part of social media, or being active on LinkedIn, or having blogs, or whatever else we do these days. It doesn't have to be all of those things. Pick one of those things which plays to your strengths. If you write a lot of code in your spare time, by all means, put it on GitHub. If you like to write about what you've been doing, then maybe start a blog. I have a lot of advice on this topic and a lot of advice on how to create a portfolio and why and where and what it's for. And if you're interested in that, click on the links below in the description because I've got blog posts and presentations on that topic. The last thing I want to talk about is when you decide to take that step to select a new job, you have to think carefully about what it is that you want. Now, in these interesting economic times, you might not be in a position to choose. But if you have any choice at all, you should be steering yourself towards something which works for you. For example, do you value stability? In which case you're going to apply to a particular type of company with a particular type of job. And those are the things you're going to say yes to if you want stability to provide for your family or whatever it is that you need a steady income for. If you want excitement and new things and a changeable environment where you're going to be doing lots of different things, then maybe you're going for something like a startup where stability might not be so much part of the appeal of that. That's fine too. This is more likely to appeal to people who perhaps don't have dependents who rely on their salary. All of these things are fine. Just be aware of the pros and cons of both things. Obviously, stability comes with possibly stability, but as we're seeing with the layoffs, that's not guaranteed either. And the new and exciting and shiny, maybe the job won't be there next month. But as long as you're prepared to keep looking and keep moving if necessary, you should be in a good position whatever you do. So, you own your career. You can be your own champion. And you can take control of that. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, please consider supporting us on Patreon.